We're going to be talking about community and mentors this morning, but before we get started into the content, just several logistics for those that are joining us that might be new. My name is Ben Baughman. If you have any questions or comments throughout this webinar, you can do that in two different ways. One is you'll see a chat box at the top right of your screen. You're welcome to enter any comments or questions at the bottom of that little window, and that will come to Ben and I. We'll see that and we will bring that up during the webinar. The other method is if you prefer to do it verbally, you're welcome to do that. Below the video area, you'll see a little button that says Ask a Question. Simply click on that, and that will notify me at this end that you're waiting to ask a question or share a comment, and then I will turn the mic over to you at the appropriate time. So those are the two ways you can interact with us, and we love interaction. We love hearing from you. We love hearing your thoughts, so don't hesitate to do either of those methods. I believe that's it as far as logistics. I'm hoping you can hear us okay. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about community and mentors this morning. We're starting into the second part of the book called Blaming Jesus and a Few Others. And I believe Ben may explain that a little bit more when he comes on. And the first couple of chapters talks about, the first one is It Takes a Village, and that's about community. And then the next one was about Holmesy, a significant mentor in Ben's life. And so that brings up the subject of mentors, and our challenge with these readings was to think about community in our lives and mentors in our lives, and whether that happened for us or not, and whether we had positive or negative aspects of community and or mentors. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ben, and he'll start sharing on those couple of chapters.
Thank you, Karma. What a privilege. Again, thanks everybody for being here and taking part in this. This section is one that is just very, very personal to me. If Jesus did anything incredibly well, that's like asking a silly question. But he did so many things well, but this is one that is one of my very favorites, and that's this. He showed us how to truly have a community and to truly be able to build each other up and encourage each other, and the system doesn't seem to do that at all. In fact, the systems around us take away that. And the Church of Jesus' time, similar to probably what's happened to us in our institutions of today, struggle with building community because they don't build it around this incredible piece of showing, mentoring, living out in our lives the love that we have and what we really want in others. We need to give them by willingly giving our lives away to them. And as we start this morning, we'll do It Takes a Village a little bit and talk about that. You know, I realized that my life was on the fortunate end. There's a number of reasons for that, probably. Number one, I was a last child. Last children, often the parents get more relaxed, and my own siblings would probably say that I was a favored child. And when they say that, I just grin and laugh and say I don't believe it was meant to be favored. It was just that my parents were relaxed, and they would probably even agree with that to a certain degree. By that time, you know, they had started to raise three other children besides myself, and so by the time I came along, they figured they had, you know, things were going to turn out okay, I guess, and so that was probably to my advantage. But also to my advantage was that there were circumstances that just simply took place that were wonderful for me. And it doesn't mean, of course, that everything went well all the time. And there weren't a lot of negative circumstances, but I did have a lot of positive circumstances. And they seemed to be the ones that grabbed hold of my life so that the negative circumstances didn't impact me as much. And I'm so grateful for that. And that's not everyone's story. In fact, it's probably almost an unusual story in many cases, and one that others don't relate to as well. But I want to share a piece, some of the pieces of that, so that we can at least get the ideas of what Jesus wants us to head toward. And I am so grateful for those influences in my life that were positive influences. And now I look back and I see them and I say, oh God, help me to have those same influences in others' lives that were so positive in mine. And starting this morning with the story of the church by the side of the road, that church I grew up with, there were three churches that were loosely associated and close to each other, all had the same roots, same start. And they were Bethel Temple and the Little Chapel and the church by the side of the road, all three of them in the Seattle, Washington area. And so when grew up, I attended the church by the side of the road with my parents, and that's the where this starts. And then the next story you'll find is actually a Bethel Temple story because my mother attended Bible school there during the day, well, for 2 years while I was 5 and 6, and so the story of Holmesley comes from that time period. But church by the side of the road was a remarkable community of people, and I'm looking at that and looking back from this time period that most of us can hardly remember. I'm very young, very small, and um, I we left it when I was 10. But before that time, the memories go back a long ways. And this one where it's a Graham, and there were several Grahams, so I'm not even certain what his first name was. I knew a missionary, Harlan Graham, and his wife Hazel, and part of the community was their daughters lived with us for a while while they were on the mission field in Brazil. And so this whole story, this whole church has such a wonderful background for me. And I remember being very loved again, feeling very loved. And that story that you have read today is one that is a strong memory for me. Now, obviously, it's a memory that doesn't have anything else surrounding it except the memory. And I can't tell you all of the things that might have gone with it, and I can't tell you the negative parts of the stories around the church by the side of the road. But I can tell you this: one day I learned very quickly what both love and the fear of the Lord was. And I learned it because Mr. Graham, who was probably out just visiting, but typical of the good community that was around me of people, he was also watching. And he watched as this little boy started to run into a busy road with people leaving the church and probably others because there were two sides of the road there. So, and run out into the road. And I'm sure he thought I would have been hit by a car. And all I remember is being grabbed and my bottom bumped a couple of times. I don't know how close the car came to me, but maybe it was close, and maybe he just knew the danger for the future. But then I remember those big loving arms as he held me. It still makes me tear up to even think about it. Because I experienced some of the same thing later a few times in my life as an adult, doing it for others. But I can remember that incredible softness and also intensity of his voice as he picks me up and he says, Benny, I don't ever want to pick you up from under it. And I knew that he meant it. And I felt two things. I felt this fear of I don't ever want to cause that in him again because this is somebody that loves me. And I understood, I think, later on, because that's what I went back to. When I read the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, it was like I just understood what it meant. It didn't mean that God was wanting me to fear. He was knowing that if I was going to be wise, probably before wisdom could start, it would have to be something that took place in my life that let me know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he didn't want something bad to happen to me and it was going to bring some very severe results. I got swatted hard by Mr. Graham. I can remember that. But I can also, even stronger than that, remember the intensity of his arms around me, loving me, and not wanting me to be left under a car somewhere. What an incredible piece of community that. That was wonderful. Nobody said, "What right do you have to spank a child?" And he didn't spank me out of his anger. He spanked me out of intensity at that moment, a couple of swats that I felt that wanted me to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he didn't want me out in that road again. That was part of living in that community. My parents weren't there at the moment. There's someone else still. What an incredible thing it is. And when I look at Holmesy, that, of course, is this wonderful piece. And I have to show you something because I treasure this picture. It's the only picture I have. I found another picture of Holmesy recently. It was a family day when this picture was taken, and it was taken at the same time, and we were together on a picnic. But let me just show you him, and you'll see me in there as well. I looked a little different back then, but I'm going to put it up and let you see it. There's Holmesy. That's a janitor. And that's me. And I don't can't tell you his background. I can't tell you anything, but I can tell you this, that I got him for 2 years. And I don't think in modern day terms we think of mentoring like this. But I look at my life now and realize he mentored me because when my mother was going to Bible school, he said, "Oh, I'll take this 5 and this 6 year old and I'll buy him a pair of gloves and soft gloves and he can dust the backs of pews during the day while I'm working, cleaning the church and taking care of this big old auditorium in downtown Seattle that had originally been a city auditorium. Had a big empty swimming pool in the basement that I don't know much of the history of, but I sure remember it. As we'd walk around it, it was always dark in that area. And I was glad to have him there as a 5 and 6 year old. But I can tell you this, he was a man who lived what I believe Jesus would have lived. He became Jesus to me. If there's ever a picture of the body of Christ in my mind, he is the hands and the feet, eyes and the ears. This is what Jesus looked like. I can't go back 2,000 years, and I can go back at 60 years, and I can tell you what I think Jesus looks like because of this janitor who loved this little boy and taught him how to live. I don't mean by that that he taught me how to be a janitor. Only did that too in a way. I learned a lot, a lot, a lot. But most of all, I learned about a man who knew how to work, but he also just knew how to love. He knew how to play checkers with a little boy. And of course, during that time, I thought I was a much better checker player than him because I beat him. more times than he beat me. When I see his face and I see how the twinkle in his eye, I think, my goodness, I sat on the lap of Jesus. I ate lunch with Jesus. I walked the streets of Seattle with Jesus. I ate Big Apples and delicatessen. I don't have any idea if my mother and father helped him pay for those things or anything else. I don't even know those stories, but I know I saw Jesus. I've been mentored. And it was during that time that I believe I learned the difference between good and evil. Not that I knew or could voice it, but I had seen good. So evil it was like I just understood this is good. So when I would see evil, I would just brush it off. I would go the other way, would walk away from it. I believe is the start of giving me the desire to live in a way that truly gives my life to others. What an incredible thing that is. I don't know your experiences. I know that this morning we received from one of you a very, very different set of experiences from your early life, and it's one that I'm familiar with, not your particular one, but having through my life watched, as there were far more people that grew up with negative experiences, often negative mentoring, than I would ever care to want to express. I think it was the majority by far, and not the minority, but the majority that had negative experiences. And yet I believe it to be one of the most important things that happens in community is that we need to live in a way that we give positive experience, positive insight to all of those that are in the community, positive encouragement, helping them to become everything they can be because we live our lives in a way that is selfless, loving, giving. It does the hard things, it does the loving things within the whole context of community. And one of the great things Jesus teaches us, and we will over these next several weeks, couple of weeks, be talking about this thing. He gives us this look at what it's like to live in a real community without a hierarchy of power over us that says, I'm in charge here, listen to me. Rather, one that lovingly takes care of the things that are needed to give others value. What an incredible thing it is to live that way. Are there some of you that would like to share from your experiences? I know as I looked at the questions, I they they really do intrigue me. Can you remember one of your life stories that illustrated the fear of the Lord as the beginning of wisdom? Or what do you think community looks like from your experience? And what do you think it should look like? Are there any of you that have any thoughts this morning as we look at this and we go into it? Because I could tell stories for hours, as I consider myself very fortunate there, having grown up like I did. But are there some of you out there that have some thoughts or questions or comments that you would like to bring up at this point? Maybe about people that were powerful influencers in your life. Um, you remember people that set the course for you, that uh, today you look back and say, either positively or negatively, these people influenced my life. Um, how does it impact you today? I'm going to go quiet for just a minute before I move any other direction and just let you become part of this. If there's any comments, yeah. I think one of the questions that, and maybe the comments will start coming in because some of those questions are almost elicit a longer comment. But um, in your life, how do you learn? Do you learn by command? If somebody says, do this, or do you learn best by example? Jesus, of course, gives us that incredible example of loving us when in those same passages that I deal with in these chapters, you know, he looks at us and he doesn't say to us without an example. He doesn't say love each other. He instead takes off his outer clothing, puts an apron, gathers a towel and a basin, washes our feet because they're dirty from the earth. When he's all done doing, he then says to us, love each other, just like that. That's example. So it's within that context that he says a new command, like love each other. And we listen to it because we've just had our feet wet. We've just been cared for. And we understand what it means to love each other. No, it doesn't mean that we're going to have another foot washing service, even though some of those were very meaningful to me early in life, and we would do those occasionally at that same church by the side of the road. That's an illustration now for us. But it means something well beyond that. The limits know no bounds. It means that we serve each other. We take care of each other's needs. We are looking for the things that we can do for others that make them feel wanted and make them feel special. And we see it throughout Jesus. See it in so many things that he does. What an incredible thing it is to follow someone who's taught us to live that. It's why the doctrines often are not very impactful. They're more along the lines of this is how you should believe, and less along the lines of letting us see by example how it is we live and live well. Wow. How important do you think it is to learn that way? How important do you think it is to express our lives that way? And how important do you think it is that we have community around us that expresses that and lives that out? Do you think it impacts us? I'm going to wait again. wanting you as part of the discussion this morning.
I'll jump in here. Can you hear me okay? I had to call in.
I can hear you fine.
Okay. As I was thinking about the community, I think there's different types of community, if you will. I'm not sure if that's quite the right way to express it, but I think of the communities around me. There's the family community, which is fairly tight and fairly close. Then there's a few friends that are a very tight community, and then there's friends beyond that maybe aren't as tight, but I love seeing them. I love getting together with them. We encourage each other when we're together. And then there's maybe acquaintances beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I ponder the difference that makes in my life, or the difference it would make in anybody's life, I think it adds a richness to life that would be, that I would really, really miss if that wasn't there. I would also say that I think there's seasons of community. I mean, there is communities I've had in the past that I don't have anymore. So do communities come and go, I guess, is kind of what I was pondering or questioning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so those are my thoughts on community that I thought about as I was thinking about this.
And maybe working backwards a little bit, do communities come and go? Obviously, they have in my own life, and in all of our lives, they do that, and especially in a culture where we don't just simply live in the same place all our lives anymore. Um, Obviously, I've lived in with my family, I've lived in many places and experienced community of some sort in all of them. Not all of it has been positive. Some of it has been negative, some very negative, and not expressed well. But there were seasons that definitely of community. And then I love, Carmen, as you're talking there, these different, um, I hesitate to call it levels. I don't think I like that word for it. Different pieces of community, perhaps, where you have your family that's obviously very close. And for everybody, that's not necessarily the case. That's been difficult. Even the family piece of community has not been positive. But family is definitely a place where we practice community. And we ought to care for each other. We ought to encourage each other. We ought to build each other up. And sorry to say, for my own siblings, I look at this and I think our family built way too much independence from each other. And so oftentimes it's hard now to get past that independence and back into we just care for each other. And uh, but I know for Brenda and I, when we were raising our boys, we made the choice, and I so appreciated her family and appreciated the way she approached it because I longed to have some of the community that she brought into it. She loved so readily. She encouraged so readily. And what an incredible thing it was. So we wanted that for our own family. And we tried to build our family around that we would encourage each other. And I think they got both sides. They got the independent side, and sometimes I think, oh my goodness, that was a piece I didn't really want to give them too much. But the the there are these different pieces to the community. I think one of the pieces, though, that I just long to see return, or maybe return is not even the right word, that I long to see, is the piece that I talk about here that steps beyond the confines of just family or even close friends. It steps into the world of our brothers and our sisters in Jesus, those that long to follow him and give their lives away. I look at that and I think, and even beyond that, into the world itself, how do we treat the world? Do we bring community to it? When I am sitting at the table of a restaurant, does that waitress or that waiter feel like I care about them? Do they feel I care because of the way I treat them and honor them and regard them? Do they see I care because I want their families to have a little better life and a little better living? So maybe I leave a little bigger tip than even is recommended or anything else, or whatever it might be. That happen with the people I meet on a regular basis that I work with. They feel like they're treated really with honor and high regard. Do I bring that to the table everywhere I go? I believe we live in a time where don't trust. Oh, that was difficult as I watched the culture move more and more to that as a pastor. It would be that there were times when I would even be concerned I've got to be careful when I'm around children because there's a new family here that doesn't know if they can trust me. And sometimes that would be almost painful because I love children, really love children. And for those that have been around me and been around me with children know that. When I was preaching, I would as soon preach with a child in my arms. I would love that. It was like that was very, very special to me. But the whole idea of community has to go to every level of our lives. If we touch somebody, it's John Donne's whole no man is an island. No man stands alone. We truly are in that position. We are affected and impacted by everyone around us and by every circumstance. We need the community of the world around us, encouraging, building us up. We need to do that together. We need to be the encouragers, the voices of grace to them, believing in them, caring about them. Jesus brings us. What an incredible thing. I think it's one of the greatest things he did. Thank you, Carmen. Any other comments or things that you'd like to say? Maybe I can just ask this because I'd love to get some response. In all of the time that you grew up, the earlier years of your life, did you experience positive or negative community from the world around you, from the teachers that you had, from the other people that were in your life? Do you look at that as positive piece or was that difficult? Without belaboring it this morning, without taking it too far and trying to, sometimes we just don't even know where to go with the conversation. So I understand that in each one. But I believe this to be one of the great purposes of what Jesus came to do. It's create a world community again. Oh, I don't mean by that something huge for each of us, but I do mean this, that the people around us and the people that we have the opportunity to impact, we live to leave a positive impact. One that allows them to feel that Jesus brings us. And oftentimes it's criticized because those that are judgmental will say, why are you hanging around with those people? And maybe the answer to that is not one we can express very well. It's interesting because when asked that question, it brought out the defensive side of Jesus. He simply defended those that he hung around. But I think there's that other piece that's just a natural thing that we can understand. It's this wonderful godly role that we have. It's someone whose life maybe hasn't had a lot of positive influence. I can now say to those people, I believe in you. And I can watch as they simply start taking in their value. That maybe they're marked after that. And that maybe they can be part of this world in a positive way. What an incredible thing that is. I believe that to be the heart of the gospel. That in a world that often doesn't feel loved, we give them love and value and care. I think it to be the most important thing perhaps that we bring in this wonderful way of our uniqueness, however we do it best. We bring value to others. I'm going to wait another few moments to see if there's anything else. I don't know that I want to go any further than that because we will go further in the next times together. When we go, we do to others third grade and the bad hair day, and then my 300-pound Jesus and Reverend Peterson, and we'll move from there to some other things. We'll take those 2 chapters next and maybe move a little farther than that. So you might go into the next couple of chapters and a little beyond for next week. But I want to thank you for being part today. Thanks for coming on board and being part of the webinars. If you have a comment or would like to send an email, please do that as well. I so appreciate the email we received this morning from one who's listening today, but on the telephone, I believe. But I really appreciated that email, and I someday look forward to hearing the rest of the story. I'll mention that, so if you're listening, you can know I would really look forward to hearing the rest of that story. God bless each of you. And have a wonderful day the rest of this Sunday.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And we'll look forward to seeing you all back next Sunday morning. Have a great week.